What are you doing to take control of your food supply? We live in a crazy world and things are getting more and more unstable, but it doesn't have to affect you and your family at the dinner table. In today's video, we are going to talk about some important things that you might want to do so that you can grow your own food. Hey Provident Preppers, I'm Kylene, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about growing your own food and food security, because the more and more crazy things that are going on in this world, the risk of not having enough food is getting a little bit more intense. In today's video, we're going to talk about growing some of your own food and some basic things that you can do. The first of which is just to identify what's growing in your own yard. This is a forsythia bush, and it is not actually intended to be a food source, but it's got these beautiful yellow blossoms only this time of year. And these blossoms are highly medicinal and edible, but they are fantastic in a tea. So you might have stuff like this already growing in your yard, but if you don't understand that you can eat it, you might miss it altogether. So the first thing is to look around your yard and discover which things are edible and medicinal that you might not have thought of. The next thing that I want to talk about are perennials. Now, perennials are plants that grow back year after year, like this apricot tree. You plant it once, and then every year it'll bear an abundant crop. But you only planted it once. And the footprint of this, I could not get as much yield off of a garden space in a short term as I can off of a full-grown fruit tree. The root system is deep, it requires less water. They're amazing. So if you can plant any perennials, including things like fruit trees or nut trees, berry bushes, grapevines, chives are perennials, strawberries are perennials. Many of the herbs that you use are perennials. The more of those that you can plant in your yard, the less worry that you have, and they just keep coming back faithfully year after year after year and providing you with food. To make my point about perennials, I want to show you my little kitchen garden here. So this is only part of it, but I have so much that is growing and I haven't done anything in this garden yet this year. These chives, I haven't done anything in my garden. They're ready to harvest already in the springtime, providing really good nutrients. And these strawberries, within a couple months, they should be loaded. So don't underestimate the power of perennials, even mixed in with your annual garden. Let's talk about your annual garden. These are crops like tomatoes and peppers and onions, the things that you plant every year, you harvest, and then you have to plant again the next year. Now this, what you see here, this method is called winter sown. It's a great way to extend the season because we have a really short growing season here. And so I have to find unique ways to be able to start things early. I've just sprinkled the seeds in here, and there's drainage holes in the bottom. You can tell it's kind of leaking a little bit. And then I tape this shut. I don't ever block this hole, but I have got all these jugs of winter sown crops that are out here that I just need to make sure that they stay watered. But other than that, they can be in the cold, they can be in the sun. They've already hardened off, and it's a great way to get a jump on the season. Now, I wanted to show you a little bit about this. These are valerian, which actually is not an annual, it is a perennial, but I planted it in the winter sown. And then these are some that I started indoors. You can see the difference in the crop. These are more spindly while they're healthy, but these took longer to come up. They were planted, I think in January. Yeah, January 31st. This wasn't planted until February, but these are much more cold hardy. They're thicker, they're a stronger plant than these that I started indoors. Now, there's nothing wrong with starting plants indoors. As you can see, I do both. In fact, I pulled this out of my solarium. You can grow them under lights and get things started, or you can just put them in a sunny window to get started. Air movement is super important. Growing crops is a great way to have food in your own backyard or your front yard and be able to feed your family. Think about being creative with the space. Is it possible for you to put some annual vegetables in along with your front landscape? Or you could grow them in a pot and just have it on a sunny location on a porch or on a sidewalk. We want to increase our food security. What can you do with whatever circumstances you have to be able to grow some of your own food? And then once you have grown your food, you need to know how to harvest it, how to use it, and how to preserve it. Now this sounds overwhelming, but seriously, if I can do it, you can do it. It's just like knowing that that forsythia bush at the very beginning, all you have to do is pull off those blossoms and put them in a tea. And that's a great way to use those. Or you can dry them to preserve them for a longer period of time so that you can use them all year long, even when that forsythia bush is not in use. So the same thing goes with the vegetables. Part of the problem, like this summer squash, is when squash comes on, you have more than you could possibly eat. But if you freeze dry it, or in this case, this is just dehydrated, I can use it all year long in different recipes. Or you can bottle. Bottling things is awesome. Now, freeze drying is a wonderful thing, but you don't have to have a freeze dryer to be successful. But it is a great way to very easily preserve your food. There are also foods that you can grow, like this butternut squash, that will stay good just at room temperature for a really long period of time. Or you can build a little cold storage like what we have. It's not a root cellar, it's just a buried freezer that we store potatoes, and they last all winter long. As we take the time to develop the skills of both growing our own food and preserving it, you will be amazed at how much you can produce in a very little space, and how much diversity and flavor and nutrition it can add to your daily diet. Not to mention the satisfaction. Quite frankly, there is nothing more satisfying than sitting down to a meal that you have grown food on your own property. If you haven't, it's time to get started. We have a lot of videos. Our World War III Victory Garden series has a lot of different great ideas. If there's something that you would like to see us create a video about, put it in the comments below. This is my happy place. I love being out in my yard and growing our own food, just feeling the peace and the joy that comes from growing my own food. But not only that, the peace that comes from knowing no matter what happens, we can grow some food. We'll be okay. And you can do this too. I promise you, if you work at it, you can do this too. And now for the question of the day. What are you growing? And what are you doing to make sure that you can eat regardless of what the challenges are ahead? Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.